Hi, in this lecture, you will learn how to find the subprograms in the database and how to drop them. We know that the easiest way of finding the subprograms is expanding the functions or procedure branch in the connections tab. We simply expand HR and functions or procedures and find our functions or procedures. We know how to do that already. But most of the times, you will see so many functions or procedures here. You can filter them by right-clicking on the Functions or Procedures branch and select Apply Filter. Just right-click and click on Apply Filter. In the opening window, we have the options to filter our functions or procedures. Actually, we can filter almost all of the objects in SQL Developer with this way. For example, we can filter the tables, triggers, indexes, etc. What we need to do is right-click on the related branch and click on Apply Filter. Okay, now here, what we need to do is selecting the filter criteria and click OK. The first drop-down list enables us to select based on what we want to filter the objects. We can filter our subprograms based on the name or create date or last modified date. In the second drop-down list, we can select how it will compare. For example, if we selected the name, in the second list, we select how it will compare the name with the text that we will specify. If is it like or equal or different than or not like the text that we specify. The third one is the text area that we will write the object name that we want to filter. For example, in here I write getEmp. This checkbox in the right is for enabling the case sensitivity. If you check here, the name of the object must be exactly the same as the text you specified with both upper and lowercase letters. I now leave it unchecked as usual. There are two more options. As you can see in the right, there are a plus sign and an X sign. If you want to filter with multiple choices, you click on the plus sign and add a new criteria. As you can see, a completely same criteria option is raised here. We can fill both of them, but this time there is one more option that we need to consider. In the upper right of the window, there are two more options, Match Any or Match All. If Match All is selected, then the filter will search for the objects that include both of these criteria. Or if there are more, it will search for the objects that will satisfy all these criteria. On the other hand, if you select Match Any, all the objects that match at least one of these criteria will be returned. Or if you want to remove one of these criteria, you can click on the text box of the criteria that you want to remove and click on the X sign in the right. Now we need only one, so let's filter our functions then. Now, since there is only one function here, let's do this for the procedures. I simply expand it and see that there is Add Job in here. So I right click here and click on Apply Filter and write Add Job and click OK. As you can see, there is only one procedure named Add Job. This is the procedure that we have searched now. We can use this method to find our functions or procedures easier. But there is something that I need to say you here. This filter is permanent on your computer. I mean, if you connect with that user but with some other computer or another SQL developer, etc., you will not see that filter. On the other hand, even if you close the SQL developer and open it later, this filter will remain the same. You can either change that filter in the same way or remove it by right-clicking the Functions or Procedures branch and click on Clear Filter option. Now you can see all the procedures again. To see the details of the subprograms, we simply double-click on the functions or procedures name. We will see the create codes in a new window. Great. This is the first way to see the functions and procedures. There is another way to find them. It is by using the user source data dictionary view. We know that data dictionary views are created and maintained by the database automatically, and they store some important data about the system, including our objects, etc. So we can find all of our functions and procedures in the user sources, DBA sources, or all sources data dictionary views based on our privileges. So now let's check user source data dictionary view. Select all the columns from user source. As we can see, these views have 5 columns: name, type, line, text, and original container ID. For now, the first 4 is important for us. Name column has the name of the object. Type column has the type of that object. I said object because there are many different types here, like functions, procedures, packages, triggers, types, etc. With this column, we can filter if you want to search for a function, procedure, etc. But notice that you need to type as uppercase because the type column in that view is uppercase. When you look at the other columns, you see that there are line and text columns. As we can understand from the name, this view stores the correct text of our functions, procedures, etc. line by line. Means each line of our create code is stored in the view by a new row. So to find our function, we will restrict this query. So I write where name is equal to, let's say, getAmp. As you can see, I typed getAmp as uppercase. Now let's run it. Great. As we can see in the result set, each line of our function is inserted to that view by a new row. But notice that the text column is not uppercase. Do not confuse about that. So this is the second way of finding our subprograms. If you are connecting to the database without the SQL developer, like SQL Plus for example, and want to find the code of a subprogram, you can check it from the user source view. Actually, you can find some data of your functions and procedures in the user objects view too. But this view does not have the create code of your subprograms. This view has some other data like create date, status, etc. Alright, so why do you need to find the functions or procedures? Most of the times, you will have some errors while using the functions or procedures that some other created. So you will need to check that subprogram to see if the problem is in your parameters or in that subprogram. So you will need to use one of these methods in your professional life too. Great. Of course, we will need to drop our functions and procedures in time. To do that, we have 2 options again. One is using the SQL Developer tool. You simply right-click on your functions or procedures and select drop. It's so simple. The second one is by typing. To drop a function, we write drop function and our function name. And to drop a procedure, we type drop procedure and the procedure name. Now let's drop our function then. Drop function getAmp. Now let's run this code. As you can see, we have dropped our function. Now, for the last of this lecture, I need to inform you about something. We know that we have 2 ways to modify a function or a procedure. The first one is using the create or replace command, and the second one is dropping and recreating it. So is there any difference between these two ways? Yes. If you drop a function or a procedure, you will also remove all the privileges of that subprogram. When you create it back, you need to grant all the related privileges again. But if you modify your function with the create or replace command, all the privileges will remain the same, so you will not need to re-grant these privileges. So if you want to modify your subprogram, use create or replace command. Do not drop and recreate it. Alright, in this lecture, you have learned why and how to find the subprograms and how to drop the functions and procedures. So this is the end of this lecture. See you in the next lectures.